Hello everyone. Hi, how are you guys doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the BUFFYCAST Season 6. This is Charles Ivan, and it's Matt. Hello. Hi. For those of you who might be new here, this is a series of videos in which I'm going to be talking about Season 6 of Buffy, which I just finished watching for the first time. I've been going through the entirety of the show for couple years now. I've been taking it really slow, but I really enjoy season 6, and I just recorded on a previous video my overall feelings on the whole thing. I did one of these for season 5 and it was 9 hours long, so now I'm trying to split them up into different topics so they are a little bit more digestible, and also maybe it won't be as long. But for season 6 in particular, like, I really enjoyed it. It was a pretty good season for me. There is certainly a lot to talk about, and my overarching feelings on the whole thing are overall positive, but there is a couple things that I mentioned in the previous video, which maybe you can check that out in order to hear my general thoughts if you're curious. But today we're doing something different, because in every one of these videos that I make, in every BuffyCast, I go over every episode that I watch, and I talk about each episode individually, because there's usually more stuff that I think about in the episodes, like after I finish watching them and then had some time to think about them. And again, for season 5, this was extremely long. For season 6, I'm going to try for that to not be the case. But something that I thought about, since this is its own unique video, it's completely separate, and also to try to kind of keep myself on track a little bit more, I'm going to be doing something, which is the thing I think maybe everybody wants, maybe, I don't know. And it's how you like that transition? Hi, we're gonna be ranking every episode of season 6 on a tier list. That's what people like, right? That's what people online like. Everyone likes sorting stuff out in lists. I do too, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of fun. But yeah, this is extremely subjective, so don't worry about it too much. If you're upset about the position of any of these, you can yell about it in the comment section, but it's your subjective opinion, as this one is also mine. But yeah, I think I'm mostly doing this just to keep myself on track about moving along, because seeing a physical list in front of me is gonna actually make me hurry a little bit more. So okay, we're going to be talking about every single one of these episodes, and we're going to be ranking them as we go along. I think this list is in order. I just grabbed something that was already on Tier Maker, and I think this is in order. And in case I forget any of these episodes, I also have a Wikipedia tab right here to remind me of every episode, in case I need like a reminder of what happened in them. Because some of these, especially the early episodes, it was a while ago. Like, for example, this episode, I don't fucking remember. I don't. I actually don't. I had to look it up right here. It's this one. That's why it's on purple, because I clicked on it. So, okay. We're going to be going over every single one of these episodes. Let's start with the first one, Bargaining Part 1. Yes. This is the episode in which we follow every character after Buffy died, and we get to see in what state they are like half a year after that event happening. We get to see what is the new status quo, and we get to see how they're coping with it, and how maybe some of them are not. For example, Willow. Willow is not coping with it at all. She's like, I'm gonna fix this, and then I guess she does, but how do I feel about it? I almost feel like I don't want to rank these two separately. I think I want to rank them together, right? This is a one story, so I kind of want to rank them back to back. Let's read this thing real quick. Giles leaves town after wondering where she still have place. It's not a deal without Buffy. Vampire discovers that the Slayer has been replaced by a robot. Love that. Meanwhile, the Scoobies attempt to raise Buffy from the dead with a powerful spell. Bargaining Part 2. Sunnydale is invaded by a gang of biker demons who, having learned that the Slayer is a robot... I love that, by the way. A gang of biker demons. Having learned that the Slayer is a robot, wreak havoc on the town. Meanwhile, the Scoobies attempt to flee from the demons, while the real Buffy, having been resurrected from the dead, returns to the place of her death for an emotional confrontation with her younger sister. I remember all that. So, you know what is the part about bargaining that I really remember that really stood out to me, and to this day, like, I still think about it, and it's that scene where Buffy beats up a bunch of bikers in like some alleyway, and all of her friends are there looking at her like confused, and they're like, oh my god, it worked. And I remember we get to see Buffy's like vision in that moment, and it's all blurry, it's a haze, it's just a bunch of noise, and she's just so like kind of out of it. But the reason why that really stood out to me is because, like, with the hindsight that we get a couple episodes later, which is Buffy being like, oh, I think I was in heaven, like that visual to me, real, like I keep thinking back to it. Like I haven't rewatched the episode, but that is a visual that to me is so clear in my head, because it's this thing of like, imagine you're Buffy, imagine you completed your journey, imagine that you're happy, you're content, and suddenly you are dragged back down to earth into fear and rage and conflict and fighting and bleeding and worry, and in that moment in that alleyway, like she's so confused, she doesn't know what's happening. Like she clawed her way out of her grave, she's covered in dirt, she's covered in blood, and then she's just killing people left and right, and it's like, what? Like, imagine that. Imagine just being born, and then that is what your life is. And it's this thing of like, she was just in heaven like 10 minutes ago, dog. Like to me, that is this thing that really perfectly encompasses the thesis statement of the season, which is, the world kind of sucks, doesn't it? But then at the end, it's like, actually, there's a lot of in the world that you can actually see that. If you're always cowering in fear in a corner, then the world is always going to be hostile and it's going to suck. But there's stuff you can like about it. There's stuff you can go and venture forth. But in that moment, the idea that the world is so hostile is so confusing and so, I don't know, visceral. That visual really solidified it for me at the moment. Even if I didn't fully know where we were going, in hindsight, that is a visual that to me is so strong. And I love that at the end, I'm just talking about Bargaining Part 2 right now, by the way, but I love that at the end we have that confrontation with Dawn, in which Dawn really kind of tries to ground Buffy, because she really wants her sister back and she's so happy that she's back. But then they have this hug and Buffy's expression is so, like, she's not here. She's just so confused. She's gone. And that's something that really stood out to me. I really like that. I really like that the idea of, like, she came back from the dead is treated with this insane amount, not insane, sorry, but with this extreme amount of not even just respect, but just like the importance that it would be like if you were in heaven and you come back down and it's a bunch of those like fighting all the time. It's like, yeah, no, it sucks. And I do like that really cements it, and that it sucks. As for part 1, and again, I'm rating these two together. The reason why I'm talking a lot about part 2 is because this is like the setup and this is the resolution. What I do like about part 1 is that we get to see all the different ways in which everybody has been dealing with Buffy being dead. We get to see that Willow hasn't. She and Tara is helping her out. So this means that Willow just completely didn't accept the fact that Buffy died. And she's like, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to bring her back. And she confided that in Tara. And Tara's like maybe a little worried, but she's like, okay, babe, like I got your back. And we're in this together. So that is what they're doing. We get to see that Sander is like the most mature in the way that he has like dealt with it alongside Anya. We get to see that Giles feels like shit and he's so conflicted as to like his place. Like he's having a hard time moving on, and because like it's a thing of like everything reminds me of Buffy, right? Like I was here for Buffy. Like she was literally the center of everybody's like orbits because she's the main character of the show. So we get to see how Giles is having this thing of like he's mature, he's an adult ass man, but he's also having this thing of like, like I don't know how long I can just stay in this town without just feeling like absolute shit. So he's just like, I'm just gonna go. I like that. And I like that Dawn, again, like she's having this like child reaction that honestly Dawn the whole season has been like this, and that she just wants people to be with her. I really like that. That is an aspect of Dawn that I really like. But I like that Spike became the babysitter. Spike became like Dawn's caretaker, and I like that a lot. Also Willow and Tara, like they became her moms, her cool lesbian moms. But I do like that Spike became this dude who just is here for you, like just to take care of you, because there's a lot to say about Spike, and this is not the video for it. But the thing is that Spike definitely cared about Buffy to, I mean, obsessive and unhealthy degrees, but he cared. And that means that after she died, he blamed himself for it. And you can see that he has that guilt. He has this thing of like later on, there's that scene in which he talks about it and he's like, like I saved you. in my head, I saved you many times. And it's this thing of like, he keeps reliving that event in his head obsessively. And in his head, he's like, what could I have done differently? Like, what could I have done in that moment? Just run here, jump there. Like, a lot of other stuff that he could have done and not failed in keeping Dawn safe, that would have saved Buffy. And he didn't. And it's this thing of like, he's obsessively thinking about it. And so after Buffy dies, what does he do? Well, he does the job that she asked him to do, which is take care of Dawn. He's keeping his... like, trying to keep his memory of Buffy and the connection that they had, in that Buffy trusted him enough to do that, intact by being around Dawn and keeping Dawn safe. He failed to do it before, but now he's going to do it like every day. And that is an aspect of Spike that I think maybe is my favorite aspect of Spike this season, that I really like. I love Bargain in part 1 and, well, 2, for how we see the way that every character is coping with it. So, honestly, like, I think the intro is pretty good. I like the intro. I like seeing how every character is coping with it. And I like seeing the contrast of, like, Buffy coming back to life and it's like everything sucks, you know? I really like that. That is pretty good. This episode, again, I had to look this up because I couldn't remember this fucking episode. I didn't remember, like, people getting possessed and shit. And I had to go and rewatch, like, a couple clips of that episode. And I was like, I did watch this. Yeah, like, I was like, did I skip this? But no. After Buffy comes back to life, there is this thing in which a demon comes through with her. If I remember correctly, because I had to look it up again. It comes through with her and it's possessing people and stuff. But honestly, like, this episode and looking at it and trying to read what the episode is about really cements to me, because I think this is the episode in which Buffy says at the end, yes, that she was in heaven. Like, I think that is something that really emphasizes for me what the season kind of is. Because, like, I don't fucking remember this demon at all. Like, coming back and possessing people. And at one point, Dawn breathed fire or something. Like, I looked it up. And I was like, what? I don't remember that at all. And it's because that doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And that is so different from previous seasons. The idea that you have a demon, you have... the conflict of the episode is something that we have to fight. And it's like, that's what the whole episode is about. And it's like, no, that's not this episode. This episode, I don't remember the conflict. But I do remember the movements of the characters. I do remember the way the characters felt. I do remember the way everyone is moving. Like, I think this is the episode in which Giles has that conversation with Willow, in which he's like, what you did is something tremendously stupid, you know? Or maybe it's the next one, I don't know. But, like, those scenes are scenes that are engraved into my brain. I don't remember the conflict of the episode because they don't matter. And in this season, more than any other season, these little conflicts don't really matter. Whatever demon we have to beat doesn't really matter. Because really the issue in the season is the way everyone's mental health. Honestly, like, almost. This is why this thumbnail confused me so much. Because this is like Xander being possessed. And I'm like, I don't remember that at all. But I do remember the scene of Buffy telling Spike that she went to heaven. And then I just remember that in this moment, everyone thinks that Buffy's acting weird in this episode, and it's everyone just kind of thinks like maybe she was in hell or she was trapped in a different dimension or whatever. And then at the end, Buffy is the one that comes in and tells Spike just like, no, I think I was in heaven because I was happy and content and complete, and now I'm back here and everything sucks, you know? So I like that. But like, this is why it makes this episode difficult to rank to me, because like, this is an episode that like by itself, like episodic like conflict, like serialized conflict, doesn't really matter. But the movements that the characters have that affect the broader story, I think they do matter. And this is an episode that really is that for me. So I think I'm gonna give it a B, just because the final scene of Buffy talking to Spike and telling him that she was in heaven, I really remember. I like that scene a lot. I remember that scene like so clearly in my head, and I really like that one. The next episode, Flooded. Buffy faces financial problems while Warren, Andrew, and Jonathan team up in order to take over Sunnydale. They send Mufashnik demon to kill Buffy, whom they believe to be their biggest threat. Mufashnik. Yes. Okay, I remember. It flooded because like they were fighting in the basement or whatever. Or like the episode at the very beginning, it was the basement getting flooded and stuff. Buffy was trying to fix something and then it all fell apart. This is the beginning of life sucking. Like everyday normal life sucking. that is something that the entire season is going to be addressing. Because this is the episode in which Buffy's trying to figure out her financial situation, figuring out how to take care of the house, figuring out how to take care of Dawn. Because like this first 3 episodes are spent with like the mystical, cosmical idea of like, somebody who came back from the dead. This one is just like, man, I got dead. This is the most human shit, and I do like that is the direction the season is taken. I also really like that is this the episode that introduced Andrew, Warren, and Jonathan? The bank robbing demon and Emma Fashioning throws a fit in front of his controllers, Jonathan, Warren, and Andrew, brother of Tucker from the prompt. That's so funny that they have to clarify that because somebody knows who the fuck he is. No, I think this is the episode where they're introduced, and that's worth something. I like that a lot. How do I feel about this one? Honestly, pretty good. There's very little episodes in this season that I don't like, but like this episode, again, it is introducing the trio in Andrew, Warren, and Jonathan, and I really like them as antagonists because they represent a lot of different stuff. I really like them as antagonists. I really like that this is the beginning of Buffy struggling with life, not just the concept of living, but like the everyday actions of living. I have to worry about debt, like that's I like that because that's real shit. I think the episode, even though not a lot important happens in this episode, I do think I like it a lot because it is introducing a lot of stuff that is really good for me. In the 3 antagonists of the stupid nerd trio, and also the idea that, life kind of sucks. Not in like a living sucks, but in like a, the bank sucks, school sucks, professions and shit. It's just like, man. And that's where this next episode comes in. Life serial, I believe. Buffy's in serious need of money to support herself and Dawn, and she tries to focus on bringing in some money. However, her attempts fail, as Jonathan, Warren, and Andrew create a number of obstacles to test her ability. This episode is a fucking banger. Like, I love that episode. I really like this episode. I do. The reason why I like that episode, and I see it in the thumbnail here, it's because this is the episode in which Buffy keeps jumping back and forth all over the place trying to figure out what she can do with her life. And she fails at every turn, mostly because 3 idiots keep messing with her. But also, they mess with her in a manner in which she it becomes clear that she's not going to succeed at whatever she's doing anyway. They trap her in a retail time loop in which she has to fulfill like a customer's living in a satisfactory way or whatever at the magic shop. And she's trapped in this time loop and she cannot get out. And it's one of those things where like, I really like that because that's just working retail. Like she's not trapped into like hell time loop in which she has to like, I don't know, save someone or kill someone and it's like a fixed point in time or whatever Doctor Who bullshit you can pull out. It's like, no, she has to have a good retail experience and she doesn't because retail sucks. She has to work retail and she has to repeat it over and over and over again. And that is just working retail. Like it's a time loop in that like no time passes. It's just like 5 minutes to keep repeating over and over again. But that is just retail. Like it's just like a customer and then the next customer and then the next customer and then the next customer and like one out of every other people that you find is gonna be yelling at you about like some stupid shit that doesn't matter, that they misunderstood and is gonna blame you for it, and it's just gonna keep asking you to do something unreasonable or whatever. And it's the thing of like, that is just what the job is, right? Like she's trapped in a magical time loop, but really it's just a job. So it's this thing in which like Warren, Andrew, and Jonathan kind of made her a little bit of a favor in making her realize that this sucks. Even if you spent just like 5 minutes in it, actually in the real world, that's enough for you to know that it sucks. So they kind of help her out in that way. She tries to work at like construction with Sander. We can see it here in the thumbnail. And the way it doesn't work is that like, I guess everyone was just very misogynistic. Everyone felt extremely weak and I guess emasculated around her. So they just didn't like that. She tried to help people out and then they were like, no, she didn't or whatever. Like they lie because it was this thing of like, you know, she protected you and then you would have to admit that she was strong enough to protect you who were weak and then nobody was willing to do that. And it's this thing of like, yeah, okay. She was also doing the thing where she was working too efficiently, which was bad because if the job is done quickly, that means that people get paid less because we get paid by time. So we want to drag this as long as we can because we just get paid more in that way. And I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. That's really fun. Because like Buffy comes into with this mentality that is almost like heroic of like, you know, like, yes, I'm gonna do my best, which is something that's so normal to find in like someone who is like Buffy's age, someone who's like early 20s or maybe just 20 and is just working for the first time. And it's just like, I'm gonna do my best, you know, so that they can see that I'm doing my best and I will get rewarded for doing my best. And it's like, that's not the way capitalism fucking works, babe. Like, the moment they just see you as an expendable number, and if they can pay you less, they will. And in fact, like, they are gonna. So what you need to do is that you have to deliberately go out of your way to try to drag everything out as much as possible so that you are gonna be able to afford groceries. Because, like, you can be done with the job in an hour. You're just gonna get paid for the hour, you know? Just like drag that shit through like 3 and then you get paid triple. And you did the exact same job and you didn't like exhaust yourself in doing so. That's how capitalism works. So yeah, sure. I actually was having a thought about this yesterday, and I'm not gonna get into it because it's too long, but I was having this thought of like, hey, the way capitalist society works is that it's so focused on like rewards, you know? It's focused on like the only thing that matters is what you get out of it at the end, be it either capital, you know, like actual just monetary compensation, or like social status. And that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what you're actually doing. It just matters what you get out of it. We're going to revisit this thought with this fucking episode with Doublemeat Palace. But I do like that is what's happening with that episode. In that Buffy is just like, I'm working really efficiently. And everyone's like, don't work efficiently. We want to eat. It's like, yeah. So it's just like Buffy learning how difficult adulthood is from... I mean, we revisit this a lot of times in this season, but like in this episode in particular, she's just like, I'm trying different jobs and I'm learning how the world works, and it sucks. And she keeps bouncing from one to the other. And then she also, yeah, she goes drinking with Spike and gambling or whatever. Buffy goes drinking, Spike is the one that goes gambling. He gambles kittens. Is this introduction of Clem? I think it is. Clem rules. I love Clem. But like Buffy bounces all over the place, different jobs. She doesn't fit anywhere. She tries to study too. She goes back to university, I think, with Willow. And she also goes out drinking. And she just keeps, like, she's speed running adulthood, really. And she's just like, no, it all sucks. And then I think this is when Giles is like, I'm just gonna give you money. So that's good. I like this episode quite a bit. Sorry, I moved it down. There we go. A tier. I might change the tiers later, but here we go. Okay, next episode. All the Way. This is a weak one. This is a pretty weak one. This is the episode in which Dawn goes out on Halloween, I think. She tries to get with a boy. Honestly, the number one thing about this episode that I remember is that, like, they presented you with this, like, older man who seemed creepy because he was, like, watching children out of his, like, window or whatever. And there was, like, ominous music playing in the background. But, like, what he was actually doing is that he just walked home from a store with groceries. And then he started cooking. And then he looked out the window. Like, that's it. That's extremely normal behavior. The only thing that was weird about it was the fact that there was weird music. But if you remove the music, that's just a normal man doing normal man things. So I was like, my call is that man is innocent, and that is the psych of the episode. And then that is exactly what happened, and that is what I remember of that episode that stood out to me. Also, at the end, I like that. They have this thing in which like Dawn goes out with this guy who's a vampire. There's a bunch of like frat boy vampires or whatever, and I do like that Buffy shows up. I think with Giles, and they have this thing, and there was like a meta conversation of like, is anyone here not a vampire? And then like two guys raise their hand that is just a couple that was just there, and they go like, get out, and then they just run away, and it was just kind of funny. I remember that was funny. But overall, it's a pretty weak episode, maybe the weakest episode of the entire season to me. It's just like very episodic generic. There's not much there. Once More with Feeling. Come on. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I can't nod. It is Once More with Feeling. A mysterious force compels Sunnydale residents to break out into song and dance numbers that reveal their true feelings. And a new demon in town, Sweet. Oh my god, is that his name? Sweet? seems to be responsible for it. Buffy and Spike share a kiss. Man, this is so tame to look at now. That's so tame. Jesus Christ, they kiss, yeah, and but back when that happened, I was like, holy fuck! It's like, dude, really, his name was Sweet, the dancing and singing demon. Damn, that guy ruled. That guy fucking rocked. I love that episode. I love that guy. Okay, Once More with Feeling is great. It's such a good fucking episode. It is a little bit unfortunate that when I watched it, I watched a version that had like 2 songs cut out of it, like some small scenes. But then I went back and I just watched those by myself anyway, and I recorded it. So it's on Patreon, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's like free. So if you go to my Patreon, you can find me watching those 2 or 3 songs that I didn't watch the first time for free there. And it's just like extended like 40 minutes of me talking about it. So you can check that out if you haven't. But Once More with Feeling is again another one of those episodes that is just an experiment, right? Like we have experiments in the show, like Hush, the episode where nobody talks. We have God, what is another episode? I mean, The Body it's a pretty unique episode. Restless is another pretty unique episode. The Seppo is honestly a pretty unique episode too. I like The Seppo a lot. Dude, like Once More with Feeling is another one that actually fits into that category of like, what if we have an episode that is just doing this thing and that's it? And it's what if it was a musical? Everyone's just singing everything and it's pretty great. The way it's directed, the way it's written, and the things that everybody sings about are pretty good. I was told that everybody sang their songs and they trained really, really hard to be able to sing, especially Sarah Michelle Gellar. I was told, I think that Alison Hannigan, I think that's the name of Willow's actress, like she didn't feel confident enough to sing, so she didn't. But then I think she said later that she regretted that choice because she saw how much Sarah Michelle Gellar improved by practicing, that she was like, oh, I should have practiced. Maybe I could have done something good. And I think they also applied a little bit of auto-tune to Sarah Michelle Gellar a couple of times. Like the song that she's singing in front of Sweet, like when she just shows up for the first time, that's the one that I remember like 1 or 2 lines that felt a little bit like too perfect. And I was like, that sounds like auto-tune to me. But she sounded overall great. Everybody sounded fucking great. And there are some songs in there that I fucking love. Like Walk Through the Fire is a fucking banger, 10 out of 10. The Sweet the Demon, whoever was playing that dude, whoever sang his lines, was great. I fucking love that dude. I love those songs. And also, it's a perfect episode, not just conceptually, but like actually what it does in the season. Because in this season, what happens is that everybody is just being cagey about the way they feel, and to the point that it becomes a boiling problem. This is an episode in which everybody says what's in their chest. Everybody just says everything because they have to sing it. That is part of the struggle, is that everybody's singing their feelings out. And it's so good because it's such a perfect like device to actually be able to just force every character to just fucking confront these issues that everybody keeps bubbling up. It's so good. And I like that the final song is also them just being like, what do we do now? Like, where do we go from now? I think that's the name of the song. I love that Buffy just told everybody about the fact that she was in heaven. That definitely changes things moving forward. Spike saved Buffy's life. It's just an overall fantastic episode. There was that song that Giles and Sarah sang. That sounds like a name. That Tara and Giles sang together. Because like I wasn't expecting that to happen. God, do y'all remember that song? Like, I'm sprawled out beneath your willow tree or whatever the fuck, I'm coming. That song was unhinged. That song was... it's crazy. That scene of Tara coming all over Willow's face happened in the exact same season as fucking Seeing Red. Fucking this season is crazy. But yeah, this episode is fantastic. 10 out of 10. Love it. Amazing. Okay, moving forward. Next episode is Tabula Rasa. It's the episode where everybody forgets. Willow and Tara argue over amnesia spell, and Tara insists that Willow is depending on magic. Willow promises to go a week without using magic, but breaches the promise like literally the next morning, causing the gang to forget who they are. Buffy and Spike kiss again. Giles goes back to London. Tara and Willow break up. Yeah, I like this episode quite a bit, actually. I might like this episode more than like all of these, honestly. I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. Okay, this is what we're going to do. New row. Once More with Feeling Anything stands out by itself, But these 2 episodes, the more I think about them, the more I like them, and more than these 3. So yeah, okay, here we are. I like Tabula Rasa a lot. I do. Because this is an episode in which everybody forgets everything. And so everybody's forced to figure out what their feelings would have been normally because of what their nature, quote unquote, are still there and they're happening. But it's like the fact that they have no information is what makes it so interesting. Like Willow and Tara still kind of fall in love, but they end up breaking up at the end of the episode because of the actual events and information, a breach of trust that actually happens is what actually breaks the relationship up. But by themselves, just being normal people without any of these conflict and any of these like addiction shit, like they are gonna be together because they actually genuinely love one another. And we can see that even if they don't know anything about their history, they're still like falling for one another. And that's something that's really cool. I really like that a lot. Like Sander is just as paranoid and just as self-conscious without knowing anything. And it's this thing of like, he doesn't remember anything, so he's more paranoid than usual. I think that Giles and Anya had like a weird thing. Yeah, because because the shop is like owned by both of them or something. They assume that they are together. And Spike assumes that he's just a guy. and they also made a joke of like they have a thing together and it's like, maybe you're a vampire with a soul. What? That sounds lame. It's like just Angel catching strays for no reason. It's just a fun episode. It's a fun episode, but it also explores something about the characters that is still there while also removing all of their memories. So I like that. I think it's a pretty good execution of an idea. I like it a lot. Next episode, Smashed. Yeah, this is the episode where they smash. Let me read into it again. Willow finds herself alone without Tara and discovers she's now powerful enough to turn the Metaforce Amy from a rat back into a human. Yeah, I remember. Amy came back. That's great. They go out partying while Spike discovers that he can hurt Buffy. Okay, jokes aside, I don't know how I feel about this episode. I love that Amy came back. I don't love that Amy did very little and then she just disappeared again. Right? Like, she didn't really matter this season. But this is kind of, not the beginning, but like where we can see that Willow is spiraling down further without Tara. Because like, she's not coping with like the things that she did wrong. She's not trying to like change or anything. She's just like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna go and party. And it's like, oh my god, girl, like I want to believe in Willow, but then Willow consistently proves me wrong. And that's how I felt watching that. There's also the episode in which Spike discovers that he can hurt Buffy, and then at the end they just fuck raw. And like they destroy a whole building in their coitus. Yeah, this is the episode where Willow just goes out of control. Like, honestly, like I think I'm looking at it and that's how I feel. I think that Dawn also, we're not talking a lot about Dawn because Dawn doesn't really take a center stage in this season. But Dawn is just feeling like shit because Tara's leaving and it's just Willow now and she feels really bad about that. But how do I feel about I think just like this episode, this is an episode that again feels transitory. Like, it almost feels like a part 1 to Wrecked. Because we get to see how Willow is spiraling, and then this is when she fully spirals, and this is when she fully spirals. Anyway, I like it, but I also don't feel super high on it, you know? I don't have a lot to say on it. That's how I feel. This, I don't know what the fuck this thumbnail is. Like, I can't make out what it is, but it's Wrecked. Buffy is shaken by her previous meeting with Spike the night before, where they slept together and caused the building around them to collapse. Why did we have to note that? That's so inconsequential, but it's just like cool to see. Amy takes Willow to a sorcerer to the drug dealer. However, it ends up with devastating consequences. I really like that episode. I like that episode a lot because it's so fucked up. Willow gets addicted to drugs, and then she takes Dawn, the 15-year-old teenager, to a drug den, to the crack dealer, and then she kidnaps her and almost gets her killed in a car. And I mean, it's not just that. It's that what I truly and deeply love, is the scene in which Willow just falls to her knees and is just bleeding and crying and just screaming, I'm sorry, I'm bad, I fucked up, I'm sorry, whatever. I don't remember exactly her lines, but she's just apologizing because like she sees how she injured Dawn, and she sees, more importantly, how she tries to help Dawn. She's like, Dawn, you come here. And Dawn just like runs away from her. Dawn is just like, no, don't get near me. And it's this thing of like, you can see how much that hurts Willow. And Willow just breaks down crying. And I really like that. I do. And I can understand that maybe if you're a different type of viewer for this season, you might watch that and you go like, oh no, I hate that. I hate that. I hate that, how that makes me feel. I love it, personally. I love that. Because I love seeing the nuanced character that Willow has become, in that she's now an addict and she is actively hurting the people that we love. And we get to see how they are shunning her. And we get to see how that hurts her and affects her. And it's this thing of like, yeah, that's real shit. And the world's not black and white, dude. Like, we know that Willow didn't mean to do any of that. But we also know that Willow has a fucking problem. And because Willow has a problem, that means that, like, she has to deal with the consequences of it. And when she deals with the consequences of it, it feels so rewarding for me. It feels so satisfying. Not because I hate Willow, but because I like to see the way in which these problems are being treated with the respect that they deserve. And not just that, but the fact that we are tackling with these problems to begin with. We have scenes like this so that later on we can celebrate when Willow actually gets over her problem, which lasts approximately 10 minutes before Tara dies and everyone goes to shit. But like, it's still like being set up there so that like we can actually tell a story that matters about Willow and addiction, because we need to see Willow break down. And I love that. I love seeing Willow break down. I love seeing this like very genuine emotion just come through, and it's just like just breaking on the floor, crying and screaming, I'm sorry. Like, it's so good. And I love that the way Buffy treated her was also extremely real. In that, like, Buffy wasn't just like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. No, Buffy was like ready to just leave her behind. And then she just sees her like breaking down, crying on the floor, and Buffy's like, okay, Willow has a problem. Like she's fucked up. She's not coping. And she has this like empathy of like, okay, like my personal feelings are not quite there to be merciful to you because you just almost killed my sister. But like at the same time, you are my best friend and I can see how you're fucked up. So then she's just like, get up, you know? And she's like, all right, we're going to fix you up. It's this thing of like, she can tell that there's more here, but emotionally she's not meeting her. But just she knows logically that she has to do something about it. I love that a lot. That's great. That's great. I love this fucking episode. It's so good, honestly. We also introduced the drug dealer, which will then come back and die immediately, but I like it. We have Gone. This is the episode in which they turn Buffy invisible, and then she tortures a social worker. I mean, I guess I'm gonna put it here, B. What this episode does is that it's telling you like, oh, Buffy doesn't want to be here. She kind of wants to stop existing because the world is so overwhelming. Yeah, I kind of figured that already, you know? Like, I kind of don't really feel like this is telling me anything that I didn't know already. The most thing that this episode does to me is, like, maybe executes on the idea that Willow is trying to recover. And we get to see how she's trying to recover. She does some, like, Nancy Drew investigator shit in order to solve out the problems instead of actually using magic to shortcut through it. So that's cool. But they do just have an invisibility gun that they just use on Buffy, you know? And Buffy just doesn't want to be here, but that's not that big of a deal to me. Doublemeat Palace, honestly, the GOAT. Okay, no, I don't know. I think that people don't like this episode. From what I understand, people don't like Doublemeat Palace. I like it. I don't think I'm crazy about it, but I do like it. Apparently, McDonald's didn't like this episode because they like removed it from like streaming in other places or whatever. But like the thing about that episode is that it's just Buffy realized it's really just another take at like Life Serial, right? Because Life Serial is like Buffy learning that having a job kind of sucks because of the way things work, and it's just like, oh, I didn't expect to have to deal with that, or this is the way things work. You know, working efficiently doesn't actually matter. In fact, it's worse for everybody, not just you. Doublemeat Palace is something similar in that like Buffy is struggling with like the idea of like, okay, I have to be a worker under capitalism and it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. It does. I don't think this is the episode in which they mention it, but I do like that later on they do mention later on in the season, and this is something that I like about what Doublemeat Palace was setting up there, and it's that Dawn is gonna study in order to have like a real job at some point. And Xander makes a joke that it's just like, yeah, you're gonna have to support your deadbeat sister because Buffy's never gonna be able to have a real job. You know, she's always gonna work part-time, small, quick jobs just to support you. And it's the thing that really makes Dawn feel guilty, but it's also this reality of like Buffy literally doesn't have the time or the just the energy or anything in order to be able to just do her slave job, just support Dawn, have food on the table, pay like for the house or whatever, rent. I don't think it's rent, but like whatever, she has to pay like something. Like every debt that you have as an adult, like Buffy has to pay for all of that because Dawn is not working because she's a teenager. So Buffy has to pay for all of that herself while also having no formal education outside of just high school, which she was kicked out of one of those already. And yeah, and she's just like 22 or whatever. Like Buffy's extremely young. So it's like Buffy's situation is so fucked. And it's this thing of like, they are acknowledging the fact that Buffy's never going to be able to actually have a normal like adult life, a normal job, and be paid well for that, you know? It's a reality that I think Doublemeat Palace is going in that direction finally. And I really like it because sometimes I say shit in this channel that sounds like I am trying to push some kind of like agenda. I'm not. I'm just talking out of how I feel. And it's this thing of like, Buffy discovers the reality of late stage capitalism, how much it sucks and how unsustainable it is and how it affects primarily people in situations that they just don't have the means in order to survive. And people in a situation like Buffy's so lucky to have like Giles who cares, to have her friends who care. Like everybody always has Buffy's back whenever she needs it. Everybody's ride or fucking die for Buffy Summers. But if you were someone that didn't have those connections, those relationships, Buffy would just like, it would be done. Like she'd be fucking in the streets. Like that's it. Like she wouldn't have anything. In the same way that if we go to an alternate timeline, like in The Wish, in which like Buffy didn't have friends and she just died, and so did everyone else, it's the same here, but it just takes longer. It's just that it's not just a vampire that kills you, it's a capitalism that kills you. If you don't have somebody being there ready to just catch your fall, because Buffy is falling, because she doesn't have any parents, she doesn't have any money, she just came back to life, she has a sister to feed, herself to feed, she cannot study, she has to try to figure out what kind of side gig to get in order to have enough money to be able to live. It's just like, man, like it's unsustainable. It doesn't work. I like that Doublemeat Palace really, really captures that. It's the same way that Life Serial kind of goes into the idea of being an adult is difficult and having jobs is difficult and trying to figure out what you want to do with your life is kind of difficult. You keep bouncing back and forth. This one is just like, this sucks. Doing this sucks. It sucks. It's bad. That's the reason why I like it. I don't care about the whole like, you know, the old woman was the monster all along, or whether she's eating people. I don't care. Next episode, Dead Things. I remember this one. Warren tries to make his ex-girlfriend Katrina his sex slave. Yeah, okay. Even though I just read that description and it made me feel a kind of way. When she fights back, he kills her. Afraid of getting caught, he convinces Jonathan and Andrew to help him use a curse to make Buffy think she killed Katrina. I really like that episode. I really like this episode, actually. You might not think so. You might hate it. I understand why. I really like this episode. The reason why is because this is the episode where it feels like it's like the show woke up. We like so many of these, we're just kind of fucking around. And then this episode happens and it's like, oh no, like this is real shit. And I feel like from this moment onward, it's just real shit all the way through. Like I'm looking at these, it's all real shit. And it's because we're following Warren and Andrew and Jonathan, and we're just kind of watching them being fucking nerds. It's just like talking about Doctor Who and shit. They're just talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and making all these nerd-ass references. And they're just doing this, like, little gimmick. Like, Warren has his, like, gadgets and shit. And Jonathan is just like, oh, guys, like, I'm gonna transform. And Andrew's like, yeah, gay joke. Anyway, like, whatever, right? Like, you have these three nerds, and you're just kind of following them, and you're like, okay, whatever. They're kind of funny, I guess, but I also just want to shove them into a locker. But this is the episode. Death Things is the episode, and specifically the stuff with Katrina is the exact moment in which the show actually just looks at them and goes like, no, you should take them seriously. Because they weren't taking themselves seriously, and now they are. Because they have to. They accidentally murder someone, and you get to see the wide gamut of how you feel about that happening. And how they even felt about the idea of Katrina being a sex slave. which is something that Warren wanted. Andrew and Jonathan are too stupid to realize that that is what they were doing, even though they were actively doing it. And when she says it to them, you're like, this is rape, is the moment that it feels like the show is like literally just screaming at the audience. This isn't funny. This is real. This is bad. And you can see how Andrew and Jonathan are like, wait, no. Like, they didn't think it. Because they were so fucking stupid. They are such stupid nerds that are just kind of fucking around. And suddenly when they are presented with the reality of things, they are like, wait, no, I wasn't thinking it that way. And then they kill her. Well, Warren kills her because Warren's a fucking psychopath. And Warren didn't mean to kill her, but he clearly had it in him to kill her. Because he's just like, oh, fucking bitch, and just hits her and just kills her. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I didn't want to kill her. We have to have the body. We have to hide it. And I keep remembering how in that moment, like, Andrew's like, she's dead, and then what are we gonna do with her? And then Warren's like, we have to hide it. And it's this thing of like, he immediately is referring to the dead body of the woman you tried to rape and now you killed as an object, you know, like it's not a real person. Well, Andrew did. And you can see how Andrew didn't like it. He's scared. And Jonathan didn't like it. He wants to get the fuck out of here. And I love that what we see here in this episode is that they tried to hide the body by making Buffy think that she killed Katrina. And they almost succeeded. It was just like a complete happenstance that Buffy realized that, oh, Warren did it because she just happened to go to a police station at that moment. And it just put two and two together because she just happened to remember that this woman was Warren's ex-girlfriend. I don't even know if Buffy knew that her name was Katrina, but she put it together, whatever. So then she gets this like second win of like, actually, no, I don't have the guilt in me anymore. Like it was Warren. Fuck Warren. And that's good for Buffy, but it's also this thing of like, to me, the thing that really, really matters, not matters, but the thing that really does the episode for me is that I spent like, I don't know, at this point, like maybe 10 episodes following like Andrew, Warren, and Jonathan, and they were just a nerd trio that are just doing stupid shit. But this is the episode in which it actually is just like, no, they escalated to murder. And they didn't mean to murder, but they did. And now that they did, you can see how they keep moving forward. We get to see how all three of them react. Warren doubles down. Warren is like, well, I committed murder. I don't care. I'm gonna make it go away. Andrew is like, I didn't want to commit murder, but now that we did, I guess we're just continue to roll with it. And we got away with it. That's kind of cool. Andrew is the one that is just like, I like that we got away with it. I'm afraid of consequences. But now that we have proven that we are above the law and above consequences, I'm like, that's kind of fun. Jonathan is the guy that is just like, get me out of here. This sucks. I don't like this. But he can't, right? Because like Warren is smart enough to be like, Jonathan's gonna turn on us, which he's right. And then Jonathan feels trapped and he just kind of plays along. And they're having this whole, for like a couple weeks, they have this thing of like, you know, like we don't trust each other, but we're not telling each other that face to face. We're playing along with one another. And that's fun. I like that. I like that the antagonists, quote unquote, the antagonists of the season have this like dynamic of like, we're not trusting one another, but we're also getting to see how they evolve, how they progress as the season goes on. Because like Warren didn't mean to kill Katrina. They never wanted to kill anyone, but they did. And now that they did, where does it go? And this is something that I actually didn't talk about in my season 6 review because I forgot, but I'm going to talk it here. And it's that one of my favorite things about season 6 is how it narrows down the scope. It like zooms all the way in. Because season 5 was like, oh, a god showed up and is gonna end the world. Whatever, who gives a shit? This season is just like, man, we got depression. And also that guy is a rapist and he sucks. And that's the main deal of the season. That's it. Glory killed like people by the hundreds. But like Warren killed Katrina once. And that was it. And we were like, fuck this dude. And it's because like that's so much more real. Because Warren is a real type of dude. He's just a real incel dude. And we hate him. And he sucks. And Andrew is similar. Andrew is a real type of dude that exists because he's the type of dude that hangs out with the weird incel. Maybe they're just friends. Maybe he has a crunch on him, like Andrew. Clearly that's the case. But they hang out together. And then when Warren goes one step too far, Andrew is like, well, I'm stuck with you, so I'm gonna keep going. And Jonathan is the guy that is like, has enough of a conscience to be like, this is bad. And these are all types of real people. These are all real people that you encounter in the world. And that's the part that is so good to me. Because like Glory killing people, whatever, eating people's brains, or like I don't give a fuck about that. Because it's just like a god doing god shit. But whenever the scope zooms all the way in, and I don't have to worry about like existence falling apart or whatever. What I have to worry about is like these people and what they are like, and what relationships they have with one another, and the problems that arise as a result of that. And that to me is so much more compelling. Like again, it's been 0 days since I referenced JoJo. One of my favorite things in Diamond is Unbreakable, JoJo Part 4, is that in that story arc, we went from like a vampire that wanted to conquer the world to like, hey man, there is a serial killer in this town and he doesn't want to leave town. He kills people every now and then, but is like a killer and he killed one of our friends. So like we have to get him, you know? And that's a scope that is so much smaller. It's not a supernatural entity that is killing a bunch of people all the time. It doesn't have any grandeur delusions of conquering the world, and it doesn't have this thing of like the apocalypse is coming. Like there's no urgency that is gonna kill so many people in the world that we have to worry about. No. The what actually happens is like we have a guy that sucks, and that makes it so much more real, which is so much more compelling to me. And I think that this episode, Death Things, the episode where that happens, it feels like that is the episode in which the season finally showed its hand with what it wanted to do with Warren, Andrew, and Jonathan. And I really like that. Because before that point, I didn't give a fuck. They were kind of funny, but I also just like didn't care. But when this happened, I was like, I didn't expect this to go there. It gets really real, and I really like that. Wait, is Death Things the episode in which Buffy is like, please don't forgive me? Buffy is distraught because she felt this way. This was the only way to explain her recent behavior, and admits that she and Spike are having sex. Though surprised, Sarah is supportive and says that it's okay if Buffy loves Spike since Spike loves her. Buffy says that she's not loving Spike but only using him, disgusts her as much as actually loving him. Buffy breaks down crying with her head in Tara's lap, begging to know what is wrong with her. Yeah, that thing's is a banger of an episode. Like, I didn't even realize that is what was happening there, and I love that. That is also another banger scene. Like, again, so much of this season are scenes that I love. It's the overarching journey that characters take that I love. Because, like, Buffy having this journey of, like, feeling so detached from reality and wanting to run away and using Spike to do so, but then realizing that Spike actually wants more and Buffy's, like, not actually willing to give him more, but she wants to keep using him, which makes her feel disgusted with herself for the way in which she's acting, which she feels is bad. Even if she doesn't like Spike, she doesn't like that she is using Spike. She doesn't like herself. It's such a weird, convoluted way of doing that. And I love that a lot. I think it's really good. Okay, next episode. Older and Far Away. Dawn, feeling that nobody wants to spend time with her, makes a wish in front of a vengeance demon that everyone would stay with her. Fulfilling her wish, the demon causes everyone at Buffy's birthday party to be unable to leave. How do you feel about this one? I mean, I like it. It's also the episode in which, like, Tara sees that Willow is, like, better because she hasn't been using magic. Like, she actively didn't want to, even though they could have done that in order to solve the problem. It's also the episode in which it is revealed that Dawn has been stealing shit. She has this kleptomania thing, which is not that important, honestly, at the end of the day, but it is something that has been happening. Honestly, what I really like about this episode is the scene in which the Vengeance Demon, she shows up and she's like, I could hear this child's, like, cries for help, like, a town over. Like, this child is so alone and none of you have given one single shit about her. I had to come in to do something because none of you were doing it. And I love that because it's so true. Like, I love that. It's the thing of, like, Dawn is so alone and she's going through so much and nobody's there for her because everyone is too busy figuring her their own shit and nobody cares about Dawn, and Dawn needs people to be there for her. She's like 15 and she doesn't have that, and I love that that is something that this episode is actually highlighting because, like, I love that Dawn is she's engaging in this, like, behavior that is, you know, illegal and unadvisable, you know, stealing shit all the time. But it is not something that the show is necessarily reprimanding. It is not something that the show is saying, like, oh, this is a bad thing, you should never do that, and just, like, punishing her for it. It's like, no, it's something that is understandable because Dawn is so lonely. Like, she's stealing, like, gifts to give to people so that then those people could tell her, oh, thank you so much, you're so nice. Like, just so people would be nice to her, she's given them gifts that she's stealing so that they can just praise her for it, you know? Ultimately, she's just trying to get attention and she doesn't know how to ask for it. it's so sad. I love that. I love it so much. Honestly, like, yeah, A is good. As you were, Riley returns to town, newly married, and enlists Buffy to help track down a demon. Her encounter with Riley causes Buffy to end her relationship with Spike. This episode I felt weird about. I did. The one thing that I don't think I talked about nearly as much, because I honestly wasn't super focused on that, but people were like, well, Riley comes in and he looks at Buffy and he sees like Buffy from season 4, or like I guess early season 5, and he's like, that's the way he wants to look at her, and Buffy wants to look at him, and like it's the same thing. It's like running into a person who like you haven't seen in a while, and that version from the past of that person is still the version of that person that is still there, that in your mind, but now you're looking at them and they're like different, and it's this thing of like, okay, like focusing on the difference. And Riley's someone that brings Buffy back to the person that she used to be, because he comes in and he's like the version of Buffy that I knew was so different from this version of Buffy, which helps Buffy like ground herself and come back to that place. The reason why I feel weird about this episode, and on some level I still do, is that I don't know if Riley is the character to do this. Like, I almost feel like Angel should have done this. And I think that there is issues with different broadcasting companies, so that's why we didn't have like a crossover earlier in the season with Buffy and Angel. But like, Riley doing this to me doesn't feel right. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Because like, the way in which Riley left, it was tragic, quote unquote, in that like Buffy didn't want it to end that way. She was just acting out, and it would have been better if Buffy hadn't said those things, and Riley would have heard and seen that she came back for him. But she just did so a little bit late. So it's tragic in that way. But like, at the same time, Riley did supernatural pseudo cheat on her. He didn't, but he was doing that because it's one of those things where like this show sometimes presents you with something that is not a thing, but it is supposed to evoke the thing. And when Buffy caught him getting his blood sucked by vampire prostitutes, it was the equivalent of Riley, one, doing drugs, and also him going and like sleeping with other women. Because it was specifically women that were doing that too. You know, it wasn't vampire men, it was vampire women. So it was this thing of like, it feels like Buffy felt betrayed because his needs weren't being met with Buffy, so he had to go get them somewhere else. Because he didn't want to demand more from Buffy while Buffy was going through the whole ordeal with her mom. Which is, on some level, considerate. On a different level, fucked up. Because you should be able to talk with your partner about what is going on with you. If you're not, then that is not an amicable solution to a problem. That is just going to cause issues further down the line that are worse. And that is exactly what happened. You need to be able to communicate your needs and your wants and your desires with your partner. And if you don't do that, that means that you're not trusting them and you don't want to burden them or whatever. But like, no, you should be able to talk to them about this and then also go like, but like, I also know that there's a lot going on with you, but like, this is something that like maybe we can figure out as soon as we're out of the woods with the Joy situation. And Buffy can be like, yeah, okay, sorry, I've been distracted, whatever. And we're gonna have like a real conversation about it instead of them just not saying shit and just feeling lonely by themselves. That is what happened with Riley, which feels crazy to me that Riley's the one that comes back and he's treated as if he was the coolest guy. He has the coolest like job. He's married now. Their relationship is so stable. They're so good. And I'm sitting here like, my guy moved on really quickly. He did. And it's just, like, I said this in the episode and maybe people disagree because, you know, people work differently. But like, Riley left like a year ago. And the fact that a year ago, and they were talking about it too, like he was so hung up over you, and you know, like he could, for months, he couldn't stop talking about you or whatever. And it's this thing of like, he got married like half a year ago or 3 months ago or whatever. Like it was months ago that he got married with this woman. He moved on so fast because like, it maybe they got like Vegas married, you know? It was just like a one night thing and they were like, oh, fuck it, let's do it, you know? But it doesn't sound that way. It sounds like they had the time to build up the relationship and they were very healthy and stable and they're married now. But Riley left a year ago. And that's crazy to me. Because like I simply don't have it in me to believe that Riley actually loved Buffy as a result of that. Like at all. Because I don't know about y'all. But if I fall in love with someone, it's gonna take me maybe like, I don't know, a decade to move on from that. Depending, right? Depending on person. But the fact that he got married a couple months later with someone else that he met for the first time, I'm like insane. I don't believe that he actually really loved Buffy that much. I don't believe that he was so hung up on Buffy as they made it out to be. I don't believe that. I don't. Which is crazy to me that he comes back and he is talking to Buffy as like, this is someone from a past of like a better life that could have been. Like that's almost the way it's presented to you. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't see Riley in that way. I see Riley as like someone that also fucked up. Like we all fucked up. And that is part of why I like about the season 5 stuff is that it felt like everyone was messy. Not as messy as season 6, but they were still messy. And the fact that he comes back and it doesn't feel that way, it feels like the show really likes Riley. I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that because I don't agree with that. Like, I don't feel that way either. Like, it feels like I'm not meeting the show where it wants me to be at, And it is doing something for Buffy as a character in which she manages to ground herself and return back to her kind of human former self. I think that's good. I just don't think Riley should have been the character to do that, It would have been really cool if it was Angel. That would have been awesome if it was Angel, But it wasn't, So I want to place this where? B, honestly, B. I don't hate it, but it's just kind of to me. Hell's Bells. That's going to be a controversial one. I love that episode. I said this during the previous video that I made because I love Hell's Bells. After I watched Hell's Bells, immediately after, I went on my YouTube community tab and I made a public post. I was like, guys, I think season 6 might be my favorite because I watched Hell's Bells. Because in the same way in which I just said that I like when characters are messy and complex, I love Hell's Bells for that reason. And I understand that if you're a different type of viewer, you might not feel that way. Because you watch Hell's Bells and you're like, you abusive piece of shit. How could you leave her at the altar? You asshole. You're doing that just to torture her, you fucking self-centered piece of shit. I get you would say that. I don't really have anything to say to you that would make you feel differently. I think that if you don't have it in you to have the empathy towards Sander, then that's okay. You just don't have that. But to me, the reason why I like it so much is because it's a perfect conclusion of the character of Sander as presented to us for 6 seasons at this point. Because Sander, as we have seen him, was someone that is so starved for affection. But then we get to see how he has this he has an abusive household. We get to see how his upbringing sucked. We get to see how his parents sucked. We get to see how he didn't get to have any of this affection that he never had that growing up. And also he has a twisted version of it in which he feels it's almost he should have that, it should be owed to him because he comes from an abusive household in which that kind of is the way things go because the way his dad is and his mom just kind of lets it happen. And Sander just sees that. And of course, if you grow up in that environment, how adjusted of a person can you be? And the answer is that Sander is remarkably well adjusted considering all things. I have to imagine largely thanks to Willow. Honestly. But that doesn't mean that baggage is gone. It is still there and it's something that you have to deal with. And he hasn't. He simply hasn't, and we haven't seen him do any of that. In fact, we've seen how he still struggles with that at the end of season 4 with Restless. And I get that episode is trippy as hell, but I did a full 4 hours video on that, and I talk a lot about Sander. That is the one that I talk about the most. But to me, it's so clear that that's the way Sander's character has always been underneath the surface. He's always just cracking jokes in order to try to make people laugh and like him a little bit, but that's because he's so starved. And I'm not saying that in oh my god, poor Sander, you should all be nice to him. I don't feel that way because I actually don't care that much about Sander. I just straight up don't. He's not one of my favorite characters. In fact, he was my least favorite character in season 1. But he has grown on me a little bit more every time that we see those little nuggets of information of oh, this guy's fucked up. There's a lot here that he's carrying with him, but he's not actually letting on. He's not opening up to being able to solve any of that. He's just letting it go and happen, and it's just festering inside him. And I love that in this episode, Hell's Bells, it finally pays off. It pays off to be able to catch those moments of Sander that make him complex. And it just comes in at the worst possible moment of just he can't go through with the wedding because he fundamentally believes that he will hurt Anya because he sees himself as a rotten piece of shit. So he's like, I can't do it because he cares about Anya. So he doesn't want to hurt her. And he knows in his head, in his heart, he knows for a fact that he's going to hurt Anya. So he runs away because the world would be better if I wasn't here. What he fails to factor in is the fact that in running away, he is hurting Anya already. But he's being emotional. Like, you can't ask a person who's struggling with a lot of like childhood trauma and being emotional to just like, no, you gotta lock in, you gotta focus. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works. Have you ever been emotional in your life? Have you ever been hurt and acted out in pain? Like, of course he's gonna react in the way that he reacted. Of course he's gonna run away. It makes such perfect sense. And I give him the leeway to do that because to me it makes perfect sense. It's like, yeah, I've been in situations that are just like him. I didn't leave anyone at the altar, you know, I never tried to get married, but I've been in situations in which I had a lot of unresolved issues with myself and I just run away. And when I run away in my head, in my heart, like I know for a fact that I'm like, this is the best thing I could be doing for them. Because it would be better if that person just didn't talk to me anymore. Because I'm just a horrible person. They have better friends. They have better people to look out for them. They are going to be happier if I'm just not here anymore. They're probably not even going to notice that I'm going to be away. You know, like there's a lot of justifications that you can put in your head. So it's something that I fully understand. And then you look back on it and it has happened to me too. And you realize that, oh, when I ran away, I actually hurt this person. Because in my head, I thought that it would be better if I just wasn't here. But then I realized, like, no, actually, they wanted me to be here. But, like, you don't have it in you to believe that anybody could want you here. Because you just hate yourself that much. And that's what the Sander thing comes down to. Is that, like, when Anya was like, do you hate me? And Sander's just like, it's not you I hate. Because he hates himself. He really just sees himself as a rotten piece of shit and he just thinks it's better if he wasn't here. And that's what he does. And I love that so much. It pays off everything. It is so painful too because it's so complex and painful because everybody's being hurt. You can tell that Sander's hurting. You can tell that Anya's hurting. Everybody hurts. Everything sucks. Everything is bad. It's so good. It's so funny that I can imagine me saying that, like, everything sucks, everyone is hurt, and then someone else is like, yeah, that's why it's bad. And I'm like, no, that's why it's good. But it's really what you want out of this season. And if you were signing off this season to have a fun adventures with your friends, that's not the season. This season is about all the bad, awful complexities of life and relationships. I love that. Hellsbells is so good. It's so good for that reason, because it just pays that off. It's so good because it's so complex, it's so fucked up, it's so hurtful. I feel bad for Anya, I feel bad for Sander, I feel bad for everybody else who was invested into this. Great episode. I love that fucking episode. So good. This thing, what's the name of this episode? Normal Again? Warren, Jonathan, and Andrew unleash a demon whose power makes Buffy believe that her friends are figment of her imagination. Buffy attempts to attack her friends, locks them in her basement, and unleashes the same demon on them. Tara eventually finds the trio, and Buffy recovers from the demon's poison by drinking an antidote. By the end of the episode, however, it is unclear which world is reality. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Again, the ending of the episode is one of those things in which, like, the writer for that episode was just having fun. Really, it was just like, it's like the end of like a Stephen King novel, you know? It's just like, it would be a cool ending if it was a movie, not if it's a show that is serialized and it has 6 seasons, almost 7. Because the ending of the episode, depending on what kind of person you want to be, fully recontextualizes and nullifies everything that has happened for the past 6 seasons and will happen in the future. So if you're someone that really cares about this world, somebody can point at this episode and be like, well, everything's fake actually, so it doesn't matter. And you don't really have an answer to that, because that could be true. And it is true, in fact, for what can you see. However, something I've seen is that I actually seen people try to cope, including my editor, actually, try to cope in that, like, actually what I think happened is that what we're seeing there is that is the final vestiges as she actually drifts away and returns to the actual real world, which is It doesn't fucking matter what kind of twisted, convoluted thing you want this to make sense in order to justify that the world is actually real. It doesn't matter. Because that's not what the scene is showing you. What the scene is showing you is clear in what it's showing you. It's that, like, actually the real world is the one in which Buffy is just gone mentally. She's in a psych ward, and everything in the show is a delusion. That is what the scene is showing you. That is the way it's directed. That is the way it's written. That is the way it's scored. That is what the scene is. And that is what fully recontextualizes and throws everything the show has been out the window. However, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't, because and this is the direction I want to comment. It's that, like, it doesn't matter because, like, well, it's fake inside her brain. Yeah, the whole show is fake inside your brain, by the way. Like, everything here is fiction. Every single thing here is fiction. This is just fiction inside of fiction. This is just fiction inside of fiction. So it's not any different. So it doesn't actually matter. And you can actually just pretend that didn't happen. You can pretend that didn't occur. Because at the end of the day, I was having a conversation that's kind of similar to this the other day. It's like, in season 1 of Buffy, I don't remember the episode, but there was an episode that I was watching in season 1 of Buffy, and I remember I just saw a cameraman. I just saw a cameraman in the background. And I was like, what is the cameraman is right there. I can see him. And it was this thing in the, like, if you want to really care about the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, if you want to make perfect sense of it, if you want the world to make perfect sense, for everything to be fully explained, for everything to have a reason or a meaning or whatever, you have to explain that cameraman in the background. Why was there a cameraman then filming Buffy at her school? Why was the cameraman there? And you can try to figure out an answer as to, like, why there was a cameraman there, that it makes sense within the confines of the universe of the show. You can just say, I don't know, there was like a camera demon that was just stalking Buffy, and then Angel killed him off screen in, like, a comic or whatever, or, like, off screen. We can just say that happened, and that's why Buffy didn't encounter him, but that is actually what was going on, you know, and that kind of makes sense within the show. But really, the cameraman was there because he was filming Buffy, because he's working in the crew, because they're making a show. That is what the cameraman was there. The reason this scene is here is because a writer was having a little bit of fun. Because it is a fun, you know, end stinger, almost like a horror movie of, like, the only thing that was missing was, like, a piano going dun 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 while this scene played. So this scene is fun for that reason. It fully destroys the canon of your show if you want to take it seriously. But this is fiction. I don't have to take it seriously, so I don't care. Right? That's ultimately what it comes down to with it. Outside of that final scene, though, that episode I kind of don't. I think I liked it when I watched it originally, but now that it's been a little bit, I don't know how much I feel about it. Because the idea of that episode was, does Buffy choose an easy way out or the complicated way in, really, which is staying in her life and continuing to suffer, instead of just saying, like, oh, I can just go live in the fake/real world in which my mom is alive and my dad is alive and everything's happy and everyone's good, but, and, like, all my friends are fake and my sister is fake, but I don't have to deal with any of these problems. I can just be happy. It's like, yeah, and she ends up choosing the struggle that is reality/fiction. I feel like I feel like the ending undermines the episode. That's what I feel. This episode is an A, but the ending drags it down to a B. Something I will say, though, somebody told me you had a boyfriend that looked like a girlfriend that I had in February of last year. It's not confidential. I got potential of rushing around. Somebody told me the world was gonna round. Sorry, I'm just listing lyrics. There's so many songs that start with somebody told me. But somebody told me that apparently this scene of Buffy in the psych ward actually takes place in the X-Men universe. Because there's a couple comics that Joss Whedon apparently wrote for Marvel X-Men comics. And in those X-Men comics, what was his name? Scott Summers? Yeah, he's Cyclops. Apparently in in one of those Joss Whedon comics for X-Men, Cyclops makes a comment that is just like, "Oh yeah, I have a cousin in a psych ward, and she thinks that she's hunting vampires or whatever." And I'm just, somebody told me that, like, yeah, that's actually that happens, and I'm just like, oh my god. So we have two worlds. One of the worlds is the world in which Buffy is a vampire slayer, and Xander and Willow and Spike and all are real, and in the other world is the X-Men. So, option select which one is cooler. All right, moving on from that episode. Entropy. This is the episode where everything is so messy and fucked up. Like, Buffy wanted to run away. Xander is really struggling. Anya is really struggling. Everyone's really struggling, except for Willow. Willow's doing great for now. I don't know. I feel like this episode is also transitory. Like, this is the episode in which everything sucks, but there's no, like, main real, like, conflict. The conflict is just a continuation of every other conflict, So I think it's good for that. But by itself, I don't know how much. Like, I like seeing Anya back, and I like to see Anya just, like, done with everything. So that's good. It's good that we get to see how, in the direction in which Anya goes. Seeing Red. Okay, we have to rate Seeing Red. Okay, I think I figured it out. There you go. Better. Let's change the color. Make it gray. That's Seeing Red. And just to be clear, I don't know if this is below or above, and I don't think it exists in any particular spot. This could be in the middle, this could be above, this could be up top, this could be at the bottom. I have no fucking clue where I want to put this. I'm just gonna leave it right there. Because, like, I don't know, man. Seeing Red is a crazy fucking episode that I don't know how I feel about. Because Seeing Red, it has the scene in which Spike tries to break Buffy, which sucks, and I hate it. It also has the scene in which Tara dies. It sucks, and I hate it. But at the same time, it really conflicts with me in that I like conflict. I like seeing conflict arise. I like seeing complexities and difficulties, because that makes for very interesting, juicy storytelling. If it was just a story in which, like, a guy showed up and he was like, "I'm evil," and then Buffy punched him, and then everyone went, "Yay," and then credits roll, like, that would be infinitely easier, and I suppose you could maybe get some kind of satisfaction out of that. I wouldn't. I want to see all of the grimy, messy stuff that makes everything so difficult. And that's why this season is really good for me. But Seeing Red is one in which I feel this episode crosses a certain line. Some kind of line was crossed when I watched that episode. And I feel like a lot of people feel similarly. I saw a lot of people that were like, I don't want to rewatch this episode. And I was like, fair. Absolutely. I fully get that. There's a lot of things about this episode. And I almost don't want to talk about it. But, like, there's things in this episode that I was told. This is the episode in which people told me on Patreon that it was written with this, like, almost like task, which was write, like, the worst day of your life. Like, this would be the worst day of your life. Write that. And somebody told me that in reference of the fact that, like, when Spike tried to break Buffy, for example, it was one of the writers who I think was a woman, and we don't know exactly who it was. We just know that it was a writer who was a woman. And she talked about how she had an instance in which she tried to get back together with somebody, and she was so desperate that she tried to force herself on him. She pushed him and threw herself on him, and the other guy had to physically just shove her away, just like, "No, don't touch me." And she talked about how it was something that was one of the worst, lowest points of her life to be someone who would do such a thing. So, okay. Something else is that somebody told me, and I'm not going to joke about this, is that somebody told me on Patreon, somebody left a comment on the Seeing Red reaction, which was, "Hey, I'm a victim of rape survivor. And I like this episode because it depicted something that was so real, and it was very real to me. And it showed me that even, like, my favorite superhero can deal with that kind of shit. And it's just as difficult, and it's just as bad. And I'm glad that that person can have that kind of, like, outlet. It's something that this piece of media, this medium, this artwork can actually help in that way, in giving this person and other people like them this kind of feeling of, like, I can connect with this, and it actually makes me feel better through kind of unity. That is something that's awesome, right? And I don't want to dismiss that. I really don't. But at the same time, I do feel like there was an element of tact that is maybe not there. And I think it's not there because it is trying to show a horrifying reality. And it is wanting to make it very clear. And it's like, okay, sure. But my issue with that, with the Spike stuff, is that I think that having Spike do this is not that it doesn't make sense on paper, but it's that it doesn't make sense for what we have seen up with Spike up until season 5, I would say. Season 6 Spike is a little weird, but season 5 Spike, it's like, I don't think that would be the case. And it's a thing of like, on paper, you believe it. Because on paper, Spike is like a serial killer. Like, he's killed so many people over hundreds of years. You believe that that's Spike. So you believe that Spike would be the kind of person that would do something horrible like that. But that doesn't match with the Spike that we have actually seen consistently every episode. Because the Spike that we see is a Spike that is actually kind of fun. And that is the show portraying a version of a character that people like. So to have him do that thing feels like the show reaching for something that on paper would make sense, but it doesn't make sense within the fantasy of the character that has been presented to you every episode with Spike. It reminds me of, I'm going to mention JoJo again, I'm sorry. Spoilers for the first episode of Diamond is Unbreakable. It reminds me of how it is revealed in Diamond is Unbreakable that there is a character who is an illegitimate son of a previous protagonist. And it's like this previous protagonist had an affair when they were like 60, and they had an affair with like a college student, someone that was like 40 years younger, got her pregnant, left her with an illegitimate child, and then just dipped. You know, he wasn't there anymore. Just never saw her again. And it's the thing of like, that character, that protagonist character, is like a trickster kind of guy, and he's fun. And the reason why he's a fun protagonist to follow is because he's always doing tricks on his opponents, and that's how he wins fights, is because he bluffs and he's like Bugs Bunny, honestly. But the thing is that on paper, you believe that guy would cheat on his wife. Because you believe that this guy is kind of a rogue kind of guy. He's a trickster. He lies to people. So you believe that he would have the charisma to just like, is like, oh, I'm horny. I'm just gonna get drunk, cheat on my wife, whatever. I'm just gonna keep lying about it, you know? And I just laugh it off. Doesn't matter. You believe on paper that is what would happen. But the character that you follow for like 60 episodes is not that guy, because he's heroic. He's a protagonist. He's a main character. You follow him, you like him, you see him overcome challenges, you see him mourn for his friends, you see him stand for his beliefs, and you completely fully trust this guy. So you don't actually believe that he would do such a thing, but he does. It's the thing of like, it's a character, it's the fantasy of the character that has been shown to you, like visually, versus like a character's like bullet points. That's how I feel about the Spike situation a little bit. Is that I feel like Spike trying to do what he tried to do to Buffy feels like in the bullet points makes sense, but the character that I see in Spike, like at the end of season 5, at the beginning of season 6 even, like it's someone that cares so much that I don't think he would do that. And I do understand where he's coming from when he does it. I hate it. I do. But I get it. And I don't think it makes full sense. And the reason why I say this, I don't know how much I want to say here, because I have formed certain thoughts based on what I heard about that. And it's that I feel, I read an interview with James Masters that somebody sent me. And I feel like Joss Whedon really didn't want people to like Spike. He was like, this guy sucks and you should hate him. And if that's the case, that feels like taking the nuclear option. It's just like, well, you're going to hate him now. And if that's the way it worked out, then it feels bad, because it feels like the writer is just, this is going to sound stupid. This is going to sound really silly. And it's also a reference to a podcast I listen to. But it's like, imagine that you're watching Friends. Follow me on this. Okay, hear me out. Imagine you're watching Friends, 90s sitcom Friends. And imagine if there was a writer in Friends who really hated Joey. He just hated him. For some reason, he just hated Joey. And then you're watching a season finale for Friends. And then Joey just pulled out a revolver and executed Phoebe on screen. People would hate Joey. And then the writer would be like, did it. Everybody hates Joey now. That's kind of what it feels like to me. The thing with Spike. it feels like you're trying really hard to do something that I don't think was... I don't want to say it wasn't there, because I want to say that season 6 tries really hard to make the relationship between Buffy and Spike to be so weird and abusive and weird for both angles, really. But I don't think season 5 Spike was there. I just straight up don't. Because I don't believe that the tone of the show was even there either. I think season 6 goes in a hard, weird direction in which I think bullet point sense, it makes sense that Spike would do that. But I don't think the show that everyone watching makes sense that he would do that, you know? And I don't want to count season 6 Spike because, you know, all of season 6 production happens at the same time, you know? All of it is being written and worked on at the same time. So, like, I think that there is a hard turn for Spike as a character from season 5 and into season 6 because they just go hard in this direction of, like, you know, obsession being an awful, horrible thing and this guy sucks and you should hate him, you know? That's the way I see it. So that's why I feel weird about it. And I don't want to say much about if that's a good or a bad thing because I just don't know, man. I don't know, man. And let's talk about Tara here because we have to. The death of Tara, I hated because they killed my favorite character. And I had so many people reach out to me and be like, hey, I wasn't sure if you were going to want to finish the show after this happened. And I'm like, it's okay. Don't worry. I can take it. I'm a big boy. I can take it. I can take it. I'm fine. But it doesn't mean it sucked any less. Because it did, but I wasn't sure how sad I was gonna be, like, after I finished watching it, and the answer is, I didn't really feel that sad, because I felt more upset, honestly. The death of Tara made me feel more upset than anything, which is interesting, but, like, I think it makes sense, because what we do in the next 3 episodes is that the death of Tara takes no time whatsoever in like, the actual time that is being given importance, relevance wise in the episodes. It's just like she died and now Willow is going off the deep end, you know? And it's just like Willow going off the deep end. And that's it. That's all we focus on. The closest thing we have is that, like, Dawn goes back home and then she encounters Star's body. We cut away from that. And then the next time we see her, she's on the floor looking at her corpse being like, I didn't want to leave her alone. That's really heartbreaking. But that's it. Like, we immediately have to move on from that and just talk about Willow. And that's all we focus on. And that makes me feel bad, but it also makes me upset more than sad, you know? Because I would have liked to have actual time to mourn Tara, and we didn't. And maybe we'll get that at the beginning of season 7, who knows? Maybe the entirety of season 7 is going to be spent mourning Tara. I would like that. But it feels unjust. It feels upsetting. And I think that's part of the reason why seeing Red has the effect that it has. Is because, like, Tara just, like, dies. Through pure happenstance. Like, it's just complete coincidence. Warren didn't want to kill her. He just randomly fired one shot in a random, awkward trajectory direction that makes no sense that it would have hit Tara, so I guess it ricocheted off the ceiling or something. And then he just hit her dead on the heart, and then she just died immediately, right? It's just so heartbreaking. And it sucks. And it feels so upsetting that it just happens in that way. And that's why I don't know, man. Because, like, I want to think about how I want to rank this fucking episode, and I don't know, man. Because, like, I do like the complexity of it all. I do like the pain and the emotion that I felt because it was genuine and it was strong. And I can tell that for a lot of people it's the same way. But I have a lot of things about this episode that really makes me feel in an extremely conflicted way. It's almost like a level of practicality of how cool of a story it is, how effective of a story it is. Like, that there's a lot of appreciation for. Then an emotional level, I fucking hated it. I don't want to look at it ever again. Like, I'm being pulled in 2 different directions, you know? So that's why I feel like seeing Red is just like, I don't know, man. I think it's just gonna stay there. I don't think I can, with any real conscience, put it up top or above or middle or anywhere. It's just, I don't know, man. This doesn't have a rank. This is just no. It's crazy because other stuff happens in the episode. You know, we have, like, Xander feeling betrayed at Buffy and having conversations about them being friends and stuff. Like, that's still meaningful and pretty good. But it's just so completely overshadowed by the crazy shit that happens here. Okay, let's move on. Which was the name of this one? Villains? Okay. Yeah, this is Willow going crazy. I like it. I do. Because, like, this is an episode in which, like, the craziest shit in the world just happened previous episode, and this episode is just a ball rolling down a mountain, you know? It's just like, It's an avalanche. It's a snowball that turns into an avalanche. It's just like, this is the craziest shit in the world. But then villains, it's just like, oh, we're just going. Like, we're not stopping. It's just going. It's just go time. And I do like it for those reasons. It's just like everything has been perfectly set up so that you understand that Willow has a problem, has a magic problem. She's on some level narcissistic. She doesn't want to confront any of her problems. Her lover just died in a very tragic manner. She knows who did it. All right, she's just gonna go fucking kill them, and she doesn't care what happens in the process. She's gonna burn out and kill everything. And it's just like, okay, cool. Like, you understand perfectly that that's what's happening, and the struggle that everyone else in the cast is having is just like, Willow can't go too far because, you know, that's a bad thing. You know, it's not that we're trying to help Warren; it's that we're trying to help Willow, and they're right, but then she just fucking kills him anyway. She just absolutely annihilates him. And it is one of those things in which, like, it is fucked up, and it is a lot, and it is too much, but then you don't really feel bad for Warren, because it's fucking Warren. Like, fuck that guy. So you don't really feel bad for it, but you're just watching Willow just spiral. She was spiraling already before, and then we stopped it, and now it's back triple, harder than ever, you know? It's so good. I like it a lot. I like this episode because it really is just a snowball going down a mountain. You know, it's just like, we're going, and it's just bad, and it's just awful. And you understand exactly why, and you know exactly the direction it's going to go. Like, it feels hopeless because you know exactly how bad the situation is. And it's not like we can just punch the antagonist and just kill her and that's the end of it, like we do every season. It's like, no, this is Willow, this is your friend, and we can't talk her out of it. Like, it's not working, and she just wants to kill, and that's it. That's cool. I like that. I like that everything that this season has set up really perfectly comes down in this final couple episodes. And I suppose I need to rank these two together. Do I want to? I think they air together. 2 to Go and Grave, because, like, 2 to Go, yeah, she goes and tries to kill Andrew and Jonathan. And Grave, Giles returns. But then Giles actually gives her humanity empathy again, and Willow is like, I'm going to end the world. And then Xander stops her. I do want to rank these two together. I think I'm going to put them right here. A+. I like them a lot because I like this finale. I like this entire thing is Willow just going off the deep end. We have to stop her, and we are mostly unsuccessful until at one point we achieve our goals. And that is after Giles gives her some hint of humanity again. And then Xander is able to get through to her because Xander, and I love that, is that Xander understands that Willow is hurt over what happened to Tara. She is acting out. And Xander is like, well, you're my best friend, so I'm going to be here for you. But it's not just that. It's that Xander is genuinely saying, like, well, if the world's going to end and I'm going to fucking die, where else am I going to go? You know? Is he going to go to his parents? Fuck no. Is he going to go to Buffy? No. I'm going to go to my best friend. The friend that's always been there for me is Willow. It's like, if I'm going to die, and it doesn't matter if you kill me, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die next to you, you know? And it's this thing of, like, it's very genuine. It's just like, you two are two friends, known each other since childhood. You really care about one another. You've always been there for one another. And it makes sense that Xander is like, I'm going to be here for you. And if I'm going to die, then, well, you're going to be there for me too, you know, because we're in this together. We've always been together. We're going to die together. And that's really cool. I really like that. And that really does get through to Willow. Like, Willow actually feels that. And it's like, okay. But before that, let's talk about 2 to Go, because that episode is really, again, Willow spiraling more and more. She goes to the drug dealer and fucking kills him. She teleports in, like, a cool moment to the magic shop, and then Giles shows up. Anya also stays behind doing incantations to, like, stop Willow. Buffy and Willow fight one another. It really feels like Willow finally has this moment of, like, well, I've always been your sidekick, and now you're gonna get your ass kicked by me, you know? But it really comes across that, like, Willow's character, she's someone that, like, she didn't see any worth in herself. She only felt like she mattered when Tara was around because Tara actually liked Willow. But now that Tara's gone, then there's no need for Willow anymore. She's just done. She's completely, like, accepted that, like, Willow is dead. I'm just gonna be a raw power and then die because I don't care about anything anymore. It's like, okay, that is sad. So I like that this does a lot for, like, Willow as a character too, and how everybody's just, like, it makes so much sense that this is exactly the way things were gonna go, to the point that, like, my editor and I kind of called it, but we didn't know that this would happen. We just said, like, oh, Willow's gonna go crazy and we're gonna have to stop her, and she's gonna do a crazy amount of violence on the 3 idiots, and we're gonna be like, Willow, stop, they're idiots. why are you doing this? Because she's drunk with power. That's what we thought. And that's kind of what happened. It was very close. So that's really fun. But I do love that ultimately the entire idea, the thesis statement of the season is the world sucks. Sometimes it's just awful. Sometimes bad shit happens and you want to just give up on it. But at the end of the day, we do have each other. We do have our connections. We do have the things in the world that actually are worth it. Because like Willow is championing for the idea of like she has a conversation with Buffy of like, oh, you want to lecture me about like what matters in the world? You try to run away, you try to die, you're trying to be invisible, you escape the spike. Because like, yes, Buffy has been for like half the season, more than half, just trying to run away, trying to not be here. And then Willow is like, oh, now you're the one that's telling me that I should be here. Like, fuck you. You know, that's hypocritical. And it's true. And then that's something about this season that I actually think likes. And I think it really works now here at the end when it finally comes into a close, because it feels like Willow is actually coming from the perspective of like, you know what? You're right. The world sucks. Sometimes a random chump just shows up, fires a bullet into the air and kills your girlfriend. And you know what? I should kill him. And the entire world sucks. And like, that's also kind of what the Giles thing does, is that Giles comes back, and it's such a banger moment, by the way. It's the best cliffhanger in the show. But like, Giles comes back, and Giles just gives her the ability to feel humanity and feel empathy. And Willow is like, oh, you poor bastards. No, I have to stop this. And she's like, I'm going to end the world. Because Willow is trying to end suffering. Willow feels the suffering that everybody else in the world feels. And she's like, oh, the world is awful. I should end it. It's coming from this idea that like to be in the world, to live in the world is to suffer. And maybe it would be better if we didn't, you know? Again, I said that this is very tangential to season 5 almost. I do think it is a little bit, but I do think that season 5 was more concerned with the experience of being human. Well, season 6 is concerned with just like, you know what? The world just awful. It's miserable living here. The experience of being in the world is miserable, just like the experience of watching the season is miserable. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have any meaning, because it does. And that's the cool part. And Buffy gets to have that moment of like realization when talking to Dawn at the end. And Willow has maybe that realization when crying in Xander's shoulders, you know? So that's a good thing. And I do think it's a pretty good resolution. I do think that Jonathan and Andrew running away to Mexico is kind of funny. But I kind of don't want to see him again. I want to see him in like one cameo. I don't want to see him again in like any way that matters. Then we have this final scene with Spike right here. That like, I don't know what to do with that. Because it's clearly setting up something for the future. So like, I don't know what season 7 of Buffy is going to be doing. So I don't really, I'm not really doing anything with that. I'm not touching Spike right now. Or ever. But yeah, I think that this is the final tier list of season 6. We ranked every episode of season 6, everybody. Yay. What do y'all think? If you like it, let me know in the comments. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments too. It helps the algorithm. But yeah, this is my season 6 tier list. This is how I like every episode of season 6. Every episode was, I don't know, 6 and above. There were no bad episodes. You know? Like, I would say that B is like 6 or 7. A is like 7, 8. A plus is 8, 9. And S is a 10. I like it. And it's crazy that I chose those 3 episodes as 10s. C is the only episode that I think is like whatever. Seeing Red, again, unrankable. I don't know where to put it. I just straight up don't know where to put it. I feel intensely about that episode in a way that is very difficult to discern. So I almost want to say that it simultaneously exists in D tier and in S tier at the same time. But I only have one image, so I don't know what to do with it. Okay, I think that's my season 6 rankings. We did this in 2 hours. Okay. Sure, we can work with that. I think that's faster in season 5. My voice is running out, so, you know, I think I'm just gonna finish with this. So, yeah, there we go. There it is. There it is. Enjoy it. And I think that's gonna be it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in for this one. See you guys next time, where I'm gonna be talking about characters for season 6, and then I think I'm gonna be starting season 7. I also have to do the Angel cast for season 3, which I still have to finish Angel. Okay, I have to do other stuff. See you guys next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.